if you go to Hey, everybody. This is your girl, Kelli McLoud-Schingen. I'm with my boy, my homie, my home split, my main man, Eddie Moore. And listen, we coming to you with stories of inclusion. And today we're going to have a great chat about how Eddie got on his journey. And so before we get started, I want to tell you how to watch this show. So if you go straight to Kelly or KMS Intercultural Consulting, and you click on the video, all you have to do is say watch, do a watch party. And once you click that watch party, you should be able to share it on your own page. And so why don't you go ahead and do that? We would love for you to do a watch party for us and join us. And so while we're talking about that, I'm going to do it on my phone too. So in the meantime, I'm going to let you guys see a little video of Eddie and I. So stand by. And we are back. You'll remember those pics, do you, Eddie?
No, I don't. I like them, though. I like them.
Awesome. So hey, everybody, listen. I have had the pleasure of knowing Eddie now for probably about 5 years at least. And he and I served on something called the Diversity Collegium for several years. It was a gathering of practitioners and professionals in the diversity, equity, and inclusion field in the United States and literally all over the world. And that's where I first had an opportunity to meet Eddie. I had heard a lot about the White Privilege Conference. I hadn't had an opportunity to make it to a White Privilege Conference yet. And so it was truly my honor to be able to share a room with him and to be able to learn from him as a colleague. And so I am grateful to you for being here today, Eddie. Thank you so much for your yes.
It's good to be here, sister. It's good to see you. And I'm excited because, hey, these kinds of conversations, these kinds of collaborations are needed, dare I say, more and more than ever.
That's for sure. And what I want to say is that this time is one that I don't think that we could have ever seen coming. And yet we knew that the conversations that we are having right now are the conversations that we should have always been having. Right. And so I'm happy to have it. But you know what? This ain't about me. Let's go ahead on and jump straight into this because I am so excited to get as much of the learning as I can possibly get from you and share that with our friends that are watching right now. So let's just jump straight into it. Eddie, why don't you tell us what's your story, right? How on earth did you get started in this work?
Yeah, well, my story is really a journey through education, through athletics primarily. I mean, I got to college because of football, basketball. I went to a small college in Iowa. And so that's really how I, got started on my educational journey. I really got, an opportunity to see myself much farther beyond what I imagined myself. And so I grew up in Southwest Florida. I had 3 older brothers, older sister. I was the youngest of 5. And my 3 older brothers primarily were, flirting with troubles here and there. In fact, when I was in high school, my brothers had already been through the prison industrial complex. I can remember vividly visiting prisons with my mom as a youngster. And so I think my mom just really wanted to get me as far away from home as possible so that I could be, having another opportunity outside of what my brothers were unfortunately encountering during that time. And that's how I ended up in Iowa. My high school basketball coach was from small town Iowa. He went to this small college. Him and my mom worked together. And that's how I got really my first phase of getting out of the neighborhood to get a fresh start. And so he went to this small college. When I got to Iowa, I I was there to play football, baseball, and basketball. I got my education. And like I said, I got out of the neighborhood. So I went back after graduation 4 years and got back with the same people my mom tried to get me away from, and basically ended up fully addicted to crack cocaine, alcohol. I was, as a youngster with my older brothers, flirting with drugs and alcohol. I think when I got to college, I was, already, experienced, unlike most, 17, 18-year-olds when it came to drinking and drugging, especially. And because I was there unsupervised primarily, meaning my mama wasn't there. I mean, in the way that I could party, I think I really escalated my drug and alcohol addiction in college, my 4 years of college.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I was able to monitor it, though, keep it under at least some control, is because I was in football, baseball, and basketball athletics. And so you got all of this stuff happening in my first 4 years. I go back home, get back with the same people, and then I ended up on a downward spiral. Finally got myself together, finally got a chance to really get clean and sober. And that was my second phase of really my journey, because I ended up back in Iowa in a master's degree program. And it was there I met a gentleman that really helped me to begin to think about diversity as a career, public speaker as a career. And so in Dubuque, Iowa, at a small college there called Loras College, that's really where my diversity and inclusion journey began from, as Malcolm Gladwell called it, those 10,000 hours. So Tom Detterman, a dear friend, passed away since, but he was really one of the first people to kind of get me on the journey of public speaking, got me connected with Gary Howard and some of the things that Gary was doing out of Seattle with his organization, Reach. And that was really my first kind of start to public speaking, primarily though in schools, and working on my master's degree. But keep in mind, Kelly, when I was back getting my master's degree, I was actually there as a football coach. And so I was a grad assistant football coach, and I was really there to coach football, not to get my master's degree. And meeting Tom really helped me to kind of reconsider all of what I was, planning to invest in athletics. And also I met a college professor in that master's degree program that encouraged me and inspired me by saying I could do more as a college professor for young Black males, which is an area of, concern for me, than I could as a football coach. And so that whole second phase there of early interactions with Tom, early conversations in schools around diversity, and this college professor saying, you should be Dr. Diversity. You should go for your doctorate. Don't spend your time trying to be a football coach. And that's the third phase, was going to the University of Iowa. I got accepted. I started my coursework. When I finished my coursework, my small college where I did my undergrad called me and asked me to be the director of diversity. I was in my coursework studying white supremacy, white privilege, and other forms of oppression. I had my first college PhD professor, Dr. Michelle Young, said to us, you're not doing diversity work if you're not exploring issues of white supremacy, white privilege, and other forms of oppression. And that sparked in me a real desire to do all my research with that foundation. And so that's where my journey around consuming, understanding, education, working with Black males, working around diversity and inclusion, but having it connected to white supremacy, white privilege, and other forms of oppression. And so when Cornell called me to apply for the job, I got the job, and the first program I put together, Kelly, was the White Privilege Conference. I felt like there was no space exploring diversity beyond Kumbaya. And that was my third phase of life right there, really starting the conference, really expanding my PhD work and research, and really beginning to, expand my public speaking, my trainings. And, that's been 20 something years ago. And so I feel like now here we are, white supremacy, white privilege trainings are illegal in some places, right? Like I spent 20 years trying to get people to just say white privilege. It felt like, I was just trying to get people to say, we got to do more than diversity, kumbaya. Yeah. Let's do some white supremacy, white privilege work. And so I feel like this next phase where we are right now, my fourth phase of life around the work, is really what I've been training for. As I was jokingly saying to you, I consider this the Super Bowl of diversity practitioners. Like, this is the game we've been preparing for. Mm-hmm. We've literally had, from the highest office in the land, people say our work is anti-American.
Yeah.
Our work, we're the racists.
Yeah.
For asking for diversity and inclusion. Yeah. And I don't think we should be taking that lightly. Mm-hmm. And again, people could have different kind of political perspectives, but to have the highest office in the land essentially declare critical race theory, white privilege work, diversity work to some extent, anti-American, is a pretty serious time, a pretty serious phase that I think we're in right now. And I'm so excited. I feel like if I think about it in an athletic, context, this is what I've been training for, right? This is what all your workshops are for, all your speaking engagements. Like, this is the Super Bowl of diversity practitioners.
Yeah.
My question is, what team are you on?
Oh,
right? Are you willing to do what it takes to win the biggest game of our career?
Yes.
That's where I think we are. And like any team, it feels like there's some real diversity on our team.
Yes.
But I tell you, sis, I don't know. Sometimes when we were, preparing for football, and getting ready to start the season, you get there at the start of the season.
Yeah.
And you can look around and see some of y'all didn't do any working out during the summer. Some of y'all aren't really ready to do what it takes for us to be the best team possible.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we are. I'm looking around saying,
some of y'all ain't did your work.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
But sis, as you know, this is a serious moment.
It's life and death.
This is it. So long story short, this is where I'm at now. 25 plus years consulted, 25 plus year clean and sober. Yeah. I got to really acknowledge that, because that was really an essential part of me turning my life around. Mm-hmm. And I owe a great deal to my mama, who's since passed, that never gave up on me. Yeah. Always supported, because I've been a big dreamer since hitting this planet. And that Black woman never gave up on me.
Yeah.
And always saw something. This is what she saw that I never envisioned. Mm-hmm. And so I'm just now knowing that I have a second chance, trying to do everything in my power, using the words of the late, great John Lewis, to just be good trouble everywhere I go.
Yes, indeed. Listen, there's so much in what you just said. So first, I know you don't need any congratulations, but well done on the being sober for 25 plus years. That is a feat. And so well done. And I also want to say, you're right. You're right. We are all along that continuum, those of us that are doing this work. And some people have been working really, really hard, nose to the grindstone, trying to get in there, getting their education, and came out swinging, ready for this. I ain't no punk. This ain't nothing. I got this. And there are some of us, sometimes self-included. I shared this with you when we started, is that sometimes I'm tired, right? So having a connection with people like yourself and other colleagues that are like, you know what, it's okay, Kel, I got you right now. It's kind of like when you run in that race, passing the baton. You know what? Okay, I ran my steam out. Here you go. And the next person takes it, and then I'm chilling, stretching in the background and whatnot, ready for that next race. Get myself back together, drinking my Gatorade. You know what I mean? And so being mindful of when I need to take care of my mental health as well, because no matter what I do, this is the work that I'm going to do. Even when I do other things like theater and whatnot, diversity, equity, inclusion always sneak its way into the other thing that I'm doing. If I'm working on something in the kitchen, it's going to be some kind of diverse dinner, that I'm putting together, some kind of connection with some other, because I value it. It's important to me, and it means the world. So I know also that sometimes when people hear Dr. Eddie Moore, the founder and the director of White Privilege Conference, and he out there, speaking truth to power, pushing the envelope, telling folks how it is. Did you know he was married to a white woman? I know that has shocked some people, and if your experience is similar to my experience, sometimes people then begin to question our commitment to the work because they think that we have somehow sold out. Because as you know, I'm married to a white man as well. So tell me what that experience has been like for you, if you're willing. I know it's a personal story, but might you be willing to share how it may have impacted your work, or does it impact your work at all?
Yeah, yeah. Well, one thing that I'm clear with my wife and have been from the beginning is I love Black people. And you just happen to be the person I discovered as my soul mate.
Right.
And so that's what I'm happy about 100% is I'm married to my soul mate, not to a white woman.
Yeah.
And yes, you're right. I mean, recently I've encountered that everywhere I go. I'm a self-reflective person, so I'm always engaging in that myself. I mean, in light of the current events, as a Black man in America, I can't not be asking myself that question. So, it's an internal, ongoing question that I have for myself. I mean, where that comes from, how that plays out through society, I think I have some familiarity with that, but I do grapple with that. And have grappled with that, and my wife and I grapple with that. But I feel like I go to bed at night knowing I'm with my soul, my partner, my homie. That I didn't wasn't one of those Black guys looking to find a white woman over a Black woman, and not acknowledging sisters, giving love and respect to sisters when I see them, checking myself up, trying to continue to evolve around that, because I know the power of whiteness, white people, white supremacy. I feel like I have a good grasp of that. So I don't want to say I'm all pious, like I'm there. But yeah, it's a grapple. And yes, I get that all the time, even most recently. And particularly, I think it's present when I'm working with Black women, and just trying to do the best I can to show my love for Black people and respect and love for Black women primarily. But also, reminding people, I mean, this is how it happened. So this is my homie, and I'm not going back.
Right. She got you.
Yeah.
Right? And that's something that I would agree with 100%. I tell people all the time, I posted on Facebook, I love me some Black people. I grew up on the south side of Chicago in an all Black community. I lived in the bosom of Blackness, Black pride, Black love, Black brilliance, Black education, Black wealth. And so Black entertainment, just all of it. I was completely surrounded by it. And so my first interactions on a day-to-day basis outside of the world of Blackness wasn't until I went away to college. And so I have this deep, when I hear the sounds of Black folks together, just in regular conversation, the cadence shifts and changes. My husband always says, when I go back to Chicago, the moment that I cross the border, my accent changes. It's like I fall into this blanket of comfort and love and familiarity and all of those things. And so I love everything about it. Make no mistake, right? And so, like you, I just happened to meet this dude who was just like, yeah, so hey, girl. And and I liked him. So, and here we are, 23 years later, and I still like him a great deal. Not just love him, I like him. He's a good person. He's my homie, like you. Um and what I love about this is that I'm free to do this work in exactly the way that I know that I need to do this work and can. And so and he supports it. He he's white, he don't understand it all, but he certainly is a good listener. And that's important for me too, because sometimes when I can ask him a question, okay, listen, I'm really just trying to understand y'all. Can you help a sister out? um we have those kinds of conversations. He's just like, listen, I think you have to understand that this is just kind of how it is when folks don't have access to y'all. um and so it's been helpful for me, honestly, for me to be able to actually do this work and to be able to be in a room with people who um, are a room full of white people and have a conversation with care instead of blame and shame. I think it's been helpful for me along those lines too.
Yeah, and I'm not a segregationist.
Yeah, right.
I'm not. I'm not. I think it's really important because this is an important issue. We got to have conversations about. It's in the air. You're seeing it in the work. Multiracial identities and the changing population. It's out there. And what I'm saying to people, let's talk. If my white wife is a problem for you, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Here's the story. Here's the journey. Let's not let this stop us from doing what we got to do to fight white supremacy.
Right.
Okay. So that's. We try to do some of that conversation at the White Privilege Conference. I don't think it's enough. We're having enough conversations about multiracial relationships, multiracial communities, particularly Black, white, and the harm and the destruction and the pain involved. And what I'm clear with my wife about is I'm not causing Black women pain.
Right.
And we have got to be conscious of that wherever we are. I'm not saying we're not going to show our love, but we got to be conscious that if our embrace causes trauma, let's wait to embrace later. Right. So we have those kinds of conversations. Yeah. And, I'm trying to always be self-reflective.
Yeah.
And knowing again in my spirit that I'm with my homes.
Yeah.
What allows me to sleep like a baby.
Yeah.
But I just really feel like, we got to keep having this conversation for our kids, because for me, it does boil down. If we want an inclusive environment, if we want integration, then part of that is the relationships are going to be integrated.
Right.
You can't have one without the other. Right. And I am not a segregationist.
Right. And I think that people need to hear that, even when we're talking about calling out things like white supremacy, whiteness, white fragility, etc., is that it's not about trying to make anybody feel bad. It's about being able to unveil, right, pull the curtain back and reveal the wizard on the other side, pulling the strings, right? And being able to call it what it is so that we can begin to dismantle that. Because if we're talking all around it, then we cannot dismantle it. And I think it's going to take every single person, every single relationship that we have, right? So speaking of having more conversations at the White Privilege Conference, let's talk about that. I know you said that was, the one of the first things or the next iteration of the work that you were doing was starting this conference, and that was 20 years ago. And I know that it is an amazing conference. I also know that behind the scenes, it takes a lot to put it together, and not just because of all of the different sessions that would be in any other conference, the process of putting a conference together, but keeping people safe. Because I know that people receive threats. Every time you come to a city, you receive a bunch of threats. So let's talk a little bit about that. And I know why you continue to to do it even with all the threats, but tell the people why you continue to do it.
Yeah.
With all of the threats.
Yeah. Well, I think the one thing people need to know is I'm not afraid of white supremacists or white supremacy. You know, I'm doing the work I've been called to do. Like, I grew up wanting to play football,
Mm.
and now I'm the white privileged guy. Right? Like, I mean, how does that happen? I mean, this is my calling. This is the work I've been called to do. I now know this is what I've been called to do. And when you find your calling, you just can't turn away from that. You can't turn away from that, for me. And
Mhm.
so that's another thing. And additionally, you know, you got to put protocols, you got to work with the city, work with the hotel. You know, there are things that we can do to make sure we're safe, work with the Southern Poverty Law Center and other kinds of tracking groups when it comes to the Klan. So we can be, you know, really attentive to how they operate, how they show up, so that
Mhm.
we can make sure that they're not coming to the WPC to do the wrong things, knowing that what we're about is really challenging white supremacy, white privilege, and other forms of oppression. So there's some things you can do there. You know, the behind the scenes most challenging thing about the white supremacy, the white privilege conference and white supremacy, is most people think I'm white. I mean,
Yeah,
I mean,
I do.
I mean, Kel, 20 plus years,
I know.
people have never taken instruction from a black man.
Yeah.
Like, it is really still foreign for people to believe that we are capable of running something like this for 20 plus years.
Yeah.
Like, that, it can't be it. There must have been something. Like,
Yeah.
that's one of the greatest frustrations I face
Yeah.
year after year around the conference,
Yeah.
is the question of,
Mm.
is
You
it
start
really,
this?
is it really, there must have been.
Yeah.
And so white supremacy and white supremacists definitely a part of that. And we try to, working with all the people involved, make sure our people are safe,
Mm.
and making sure those kinds of folks aren't showing up. But
Mm.
the way white supremacy is most devastating at the White Privilege Conference is black suspicion.
Yes. Oh, Lord. Yes. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, and you would think that that would be the place that it wouldn't be, right? Because people are coming to engage in the conversation, and surely, right? But the trauma continues to happen because white supremacy is so deeply embedded into our society. So even those who believe themselves to be um, allies, which I think is, I'm grateful for that conversation too, right? Being able to say, no, you don't get to call yourself an ally. You have to be identified as such. And so a lot of people will come to that conference having self-identified as being an ally, and they're the ones that kind of fall out of their mouths with some of the crazy stuff that you're talking about. But okay, so I think it's important for a lot of people, who are watching to understand what is the white privilege conference, right? Because I know you, I know the conference, I've been to the conference, I know that it is an amazing experience, and so I recommend any and everybody to go, at least once. I also know that you're taking it internationally now, which I am so happy to hear. I know that you've had a great deal of success with some of the conferences that have happened up in Canada. And so tell us, just walk us through a conference. So what is the experience like? How many people are there? What are some of the themes? What's the process, etc.?
Yeah, so conference is format wise, typically like any other conference, keynotes, workshop. What we do that we really take pride in, that we think is really unique at the conference, is we have every day, of course, an acknowledgement of the land we're on, and giving real love and respect to our First Nation communities.
Yeah.
Also having arts. You'll appreciate this as a theater person. We believe in art and artists being a part of this conversation. So we like to have spoken word,
Mhm.
theatrical performances,
Yep.
workshops. So we really keep the arts alive at the White Privilege Conference.
Yes.
But subject matter wise, again, remember the catalyst to the conference coming to fruition
Mhm.
was really my experience at other conferences that I think were great diversity conferences,
Mm.
but not going beyond kind of diversity 101, 201. It feels like in the curriculum, every subject matter, language, math, social studies. There's like tiers you can escalate, you can go up, you can advance.
Right.
In the world of diversity, it seems like 101, 201.
Yeah.
And I felt like in the White Privilege Conference was really designed to be a high level space to go beyond diversity kumbaya, to look at white supremacy, white cultural dominance, structural design, systemic design.
Yeah.
So after we do our diversity work individually, which everybody's got work to do,
Right.
what's the work we have to do in systems and organizations and institutions
Mm-hmm.
when many of them have been started by a philosophy of white people being better?
Right.
Like, how do you change that? How do you challenge that? How do you exist in that?
Right.
Right? How do you recognize that? What's the language, right? These are all the things we're trying to uncover with our workshops around education, around business, around healthcare. So we take pride in not just looking at education in reference to the subject matter. We cover the philosophical impact of white supremacy in all areas. And we don't just look at skin-based privilege.
Mm-hmm.
We look at privilege comprehensively.
Yeah.
And so our motto is everybody has privilege. It's just manifested in our lives in very different ways.
Yeah.
And so it's really having a comprehensive understanding of where white supremacy, the philosophy, comes from, which now, I mean, I love this president. I mean, I just really do. I mean, I just love when people give me how they really feel. I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not saying, I don't know. I don't know if the president has outright said, I'm a white supremacist, but I do know white supremacists, like the Proud Boys, feel like they're being supported by the president.
Yes.
So how does a Proud Boy movement get started?
Yeah.
Who do they recruit? What do they do? Do they have jobs? Are they in your university? Are they in your schools?
Yeah.
Are they at your bank? Right. This is what we're trying to do, to have a comprehensive understanding as we see white supremacists and white supremacy more prevalent in our society. That's what we're trying to do at the White Privilege Conference.
Yeah.
Now, last thing I'll add, one of the things, again, I mentioned this jokingly, but what I see constantly is most people think the White Privilege Conference is for white people.
Yeah.
It's started by a white person, ran by a white person. I mean, they're so shocked. Me and Debbie Irving, good friends, we have a funny story. When she first came to the White Privilege Conference and she was looking for the founder, Eddie Moore Jr., she saw me with my name tag and she said, what is the likelihood there'd be two Eddie Moores here at this conference, right? Like, she had fixated in her mind. We get a good laugh every time we get together to tell that story. But the thing is, everybody has Eddie Moore, founder, White Privilege Conference, usually looking like a white person. And so that's a real shock to people. But secondly, right, people think that it's for white people. And I really want to let people of color know that this is an Afrocentric foundation. Like the White Privilege Conference does provide some knowledge, some learning, some teaching for white people. Absolutely. But the primary foundation of the programming is for the care of Black genius, Black excellence.
Yeah.
Something we don't often learn is how to take care of ourselves when we're working in these historically white institutions. And what are the challenges we're facing internally, externally? And so I just really also like to remind people that Black genius, Black excellence is the foundation. Afrocentric is the foundation of the programmatic design of the White Privilege Conference as well.
Well, thank you so much for saying that, Eddie, because knowing that it's the foundation, to me is one of the things that I believe that is true about Black people when they love Blackness, right? Is that we can find room for other people to show up in the fullness of their being and also represent, right? We want to give space for that. And we will celebrate that. Be like, okay, come on, Native American brothers and sisters. Okay, come on, Latinx brothers and sisters. Come on, everybody. Let's do this together, right? So the thing that I love about the conference is that while I know that those are the founding principles of it, it certainly feels like a truly multicultural space, one that celebrates everybody. And I don't just use that term lightly, because I hate when I hear people say, can you do a workshop for me on celebrating diversity? I'm always like, what does that even mean? I don't even know what that means, right? But the celebration of people and culture at the White Privilege Conference, I think, is alive and real. Knowing that, even just in, the White Privilege Conference, and I went for the first time now, gosh, what might have been 6 or 7 years ago already, but I know it was the first place that I went to that pronouns was common. The use of pronouns was common at the White Privilege Conference, and it surprised me. Now, I knew that there were those of us that were using our pronouns in the work that we were doing in different spaces and whatnot, but it wasn't completely common at any conference that I had gone to. But to be at the White Privilege Conference, it was common. Every time somebody stepped to the mic and introduced themselves. And so I know that that was also important in being able to create space for people around, our identities too. So anyway, I just wanted to make sure that people understood what the White Privilege Conference was, and everything that you've just shared in terms of its founding, who founded it, and what's the foundation of the conference, and all of that is incredibly important. And for those of you who are watching, if you haven't been, I strongly encourage you to come. You will not be disappointed. You will not be disappointed. Some of the keynote speakers are the most prolific and and brilliant, if you will, genius, even, as Eddie has said. So the sessions have been amazing. Some of the greatest thinkers in the field attend, and are available and accessible, which is very nice. So you can sit down at one of the lunch tables and just have a conversation with somebody who wrote one of the books that you might be following. Speaking of books.
Yeah, let me say this right quickly. I mentioned the diversity at the conference, really important to echo. Also, you mentioned pronouns. Again, 6 years ago, we're doing this, as well as all gender restrooms. It's something that we've been really challenging our hotels and our hosts around. And the last thing, keynotes, but as well as workshop presenters, we argue at the White Privilege Conference, you can't come here just for one day and leave. Okay, so the White Privilege Conference is also a place where people who do diversity work should come do their work. And so if you're a presenter there, you have to be there 2 days. And so it gives you an opportunity to present your work, as well as to participate in some learning. And last thing I'll say, you mentioned this, the keynotes. Like, we like people, we get some big name folks every now and then, but a lot of times our goal is trying to get people right at the beginning. Right. Like Michelle Alexander, now everybody knows Michelle Alexander, but, we were fortunate to have her back in 2010.
Yeah.
10 years ago, almost, if not 10 years ago. So those are the kind of folks, Dr. Derek Hamilton, who's one of the most renowned now minds around economics and some of the disparities that folks are looking to, presidential candidates are looking to. Right. I mean, we had him years ago at the White Privilege Conference as well. Dr. Joy DeGruy. 2006.
Yeah.
We had her there 2 years in a row. Woo! Dr. Joy just set the place on fire.
I think that might have been my first one.
Oh my goodness, just powerful. So anyway, we like to also have people in the budding of their genius, being a part of the White Privilege Conference, to show people that you don't have to have a big name to have a big conference.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's a big conference because it's thousands of people that show up at this thing.
That's right. That's right. So it's not the big name. It's the relationships.
It is.
The community. Yeah. And that we're really, and have been really working hard to create that kind of space where we could have tough conversations. I mean, blood, sweat, and tears, and still have a drink or some dessert and coffee at the end of the day.
That's right. That's right. So, as I was saying, I know that you have edited a number of books, and Everyday White People Confronting Racism, the Diversity Consultant Cookbook, The Guide for White Women Teaching Black Boys, right? So tell me how these things came about, especially the consultant cookbook, right? I mean, because that's going to throw some folks off.
Yeah.
But how did these come about? And I remember when you were in the process of editing white women who are teaching Black boys, and having some conversations with you at the collegium about the importance of that, because our boys were being overrepresented in either the gosh, now the word is escaping me, but the like the remedial classes, or in
Special ed.
special
Yep.
ed, yes,
Yep.
or
Yep.
the detentions and whatnot, because they don't understand the way that our kids communicate. So tell us a little bit about those journeys as well.
Yeah, I mean, keep in mind, as I said to y'all, I am divinely created, divinely inspired. And, I know, and I want to be careful because I want to be in respect of how people worship and different ways of worshiping. But for this Black man, okay, for me to be sitting here in front of you is divine inspiration.
Mm.
And so that's where everything that I've been fortunate to produce and been a part of producing has to give credit to the fact that I shouldn't even be here, Kel. I
Yeah.
shouldn't be here. And so, being a Black educator, Black male, working on my PhD, particularly in Iowa, where I saw so many white teachers, and seeing all of these disparities when it came to kids of color, particularly Black males, I felt like it wasn't enough to just keep complaining about it, naming it. What are you going to do about it? As they say in the neighborhood, don't talk about it, be about it. And so that's really where the White Women's Guide to Teaching Black Boy came from, from good partnership, collaborations, all the book projects I want to do, except my last one. I'm going to do a book a year for the next 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm working on. That's my legacy.
Mm.
My last one will be my own book, which I'm flirting with the title. Maybe I'll share it with the audience. I don't know yet. But anyway, what I'm going to do until then is be in partnership with people, because I feel like, and I learned this from Cornel West at WPC2, where he argued that if we're going to really make some progress around these issues, we got to do it in a diverse, in community, in collaboration. And that's been the way that I wanted to put my book projects together. So the White Women Teaching Black Boys was really to come at that issue. We're actually going to be releasing in January, February next year sometime, the companion book to that called Teaching Beautiful, Brilliant Black Girls. So that is to the publisher now. And so we're really excited about the companion book coming to that. The Everyday White People, that was a book because I felt like most white people were turning to people of color as role models for social justice.
Yeah.
Now, I don't mind working with white people, particularly young white folks, but sometimes white people need to learn from white people.
Come on.
And so that book was really attempt to bring to light, 15 white folks who've been doing work for 30 plus years or more. Yeah. And at that time, they're still alive. I think only one has passed since then. We had a couple that did it, and Alan Rabinowitz has since passed. But it's the story of living social justice folks. So you don't have to wait till they die to learn about them. Like, how did Peggy McIntosh come to write Unpacking the Invisible Knapsack?
Yes.
It wasn't born. She wasn't born with this article under her pillow. Like, what's the journey? Yeah. Like, how did Jim Loewen come to write Lies My Teacher Told Me? Yeah. What's his story? What's his journey? Yeah. So now white folks, white young people especially, have some role models that they can learn from. In the cookbook, listen, the cookbook is really, Kel, all the lessons I wish I had known 20 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
me too. Me too.
And really calling on our friends, my friends, our colleagues, to say, hey, what do you wish you had learned? What do you wish young people know today who want to get in the field? And so really trying to create a guide. I mean, trying to develop the future of the diversity practitioners, the diversity consultants, and really teaching them about some of the little things like how to travel, how to build up your miles,
Right.
how to fly one airline, how to eat on the road, take care of yourself, how to make sure you exercise, how to deal with resistance in your workshop, how to form your first contract, how to respond to, the principal versus responding to the hospital administrator. What's the difference between a big corporate contract and a small church contract, right? Like all of this stuff, like the day-to-day that I had no idea about what I was doing, right? How to take pictures, how to keep track, how to chronicle what it is you're doing over time.
Yeah.
Really trying to build and really establish and develop the future consultants, but also most importantly, reminding them just because you're Black don't make you a diversity consultant.
Come on.
Okay.
Wait, what you say? I
All
hear
right.
that.
All right. I just really want to challenge people around Malcolm Gladwell's work of Outliers, where he did the research around what it takes to be a professional in any area. Primarily, he was looking at athletics, but what he looked at and found is 10,000 hours. Right. And that's one of the things I'm encouraging the future practitioner, the future consultant, is make sure you put in your time and how to do that and how I did that, where I did that. And so that's really what I'm trying to do now. I got my little hustle coach gear on here. So that's what I want to do. I want to work with people and really help them. How do you behave at a conference, right? Like, I remember, I'll tell you this one story about being at a conference, right? I was out there hustling. I was grinding, trying to make Eddie Moore Jr. a household name. That was my goal. Trying to spread the word about the White Privilege Conference and the work that I was doing. So I would get to Encore, right? I wasn't there to have fancy dinners, and stay up all night and all that kind of stuff. Did a little bit of that, have a little fun, but I would wake up early before the keynote. And I would sneak in the ballroom and I would put a Got Privilege flyer on every seat.
Wow.
In the auditorium.
Wow.
So when people came there, they would see Got Privilege right there, right? So that's a little hustle trick that I teach. I want to work with folks. Like when you go to a conference, this is how you build your network.
Yeah.
This is how you watch the people who people are talking to. If you want to talk to the keynote, this is how you catch the keynote right when they come out of the ballroom.
Yeah.
Or right before they leave after they sign their books, right? Like there's a way you can get 3 minutes with the keynote and have your 3-minute speech ready.
Yeah.
Right. So those are the kind of things that I'm also trying to accomplish with the diversity cookbook. All the key ingredients to being a good diversity consultant is the idea there.
And listen, I need to buy at least 15, 16, because seriously, and not just for me, right? But also as you are, I'm starting to get towards that end, that end game. I've been in the game, as an independent consultant, 20 years, just talking about diversity and inclusion since 1989, right? So almost a little over 30 years. So people are coming to me, young professionals, the Mullins and Z's, how to get started. How do we do this? And I'm so grateful to a woman by the name of Dr. Maura Cullen, who is one of my mentors. She's a diversity educator, in the higher education world. So, Maura, I'm sure. And she was so kind to basically give me a blueprint when I was starting out. She was just like, okay, sit down. Here's everything that you got to do. And that sometimes those of us in this field can feel a little bit of that competition for scarce resources and not be as willing to share our secrets. But you and I know that there's so much work to be done, that this is about abundance. There's so much work to be done that just one person can't do it all. So I'm happy to share as much as I can with people about how to do this and how to start. So so in my conversations with people, I give them the same blueprint that Maura gave me, but I tell them to increase their price just a little bit more than where I started. But but being able to have this cookbook, I think, to give to young people too. Even my son is toying with the idea of working alongside me for a little while. He's 20, and he's studying theater right now in Chicago. But he is, he has always been a social justice advocate. He has always been right out there in front, fighting the good fight, power to the people, and calling me on my stuff. That's what the kids do, right? So, so I would love to be able to also hand, him something like this. So say, babe, if you're serious about this, check this out. My brother put this together.
Yeah.
It's all the good stuff, all the tricks. It's gonna be good. So, so thank you for sharing those secrets and those books. I think that is incredibly critical as people continue to want to learn. And one of the things that I'm saying nowadays is that it's important for folks who are just entering into this conversation, especially our white colleagues and friends, is to work to not learn on somebody. Do the learning yourself, right? I don't need to be the only way that you're getting this information. So stop trying to learn on me. Get this information yourself. And so having these books as resources are going to be critical. And your network is vast. And so your access to some of the greatest minds around this work is incredible. And so thank you for continuing to do the work that you do. Now I want to jump into something because we've got just about, 8-9 minutes left. And so I want you to tell me what is the most exciting thing that you are working on right now that's coming next, right? So what's new now and next for Dr. Eddie Moe and more?
Yeah. 4 things. One, the virtual world of WPC. I mean, we've got to just look at what that's going to look like. Sure. So that's number one, working on that. Doing a kid's book, working on really telling the story of Dr. Diversity from a kid's perspective. So really excited about what's coming in reference to that as well. Also, as I mentioned, the forthcoming Eddie Moore Jr. story. I mean, how does a Black guy end up running the White Privilege Conference, and all the other things in between and around that is also what I'm excited about. And lastly, though, is the 21-day action plan. I mean, this is something we started about 6-7 years ago that's really been taken off. And the 21-day action plan is really something I used to use a lot after my presentation to give people something that they could do right afterwards.
Yeah.
And in light of some of the recent current events, a lot of folks have been picking it up and really putting it into their institutions, their organizations. And so I've been working with a organization now to really be able to bring the 21-day action plan to your cell phone, to your email, to really get you the notifications in the morning, get you a reminder at night, and to also be able to track if your organization is participating in the 21-day action plan, to track the progress of the employees and how they're doing it. And if someone misses one, you can call them that night and say, hey, Eddie, you're okay. We noticed you didn't do your 21-day action. We agreed that everybody in the organization are going to do it. We just want to check in to see if you need anything. So yeah, really the ability to bring action into people's day-to-day lives. So it's really accessible that if we're going to become anti-racist, then we got to do anti-racist stuff.
Yeah.
And so, and you can do some of that. I'm asking one thing a day, bite-sized, manageable. So I'm declaring that Eddie Moore Jr. is on the journey to become anti-racist. I'm asking everybody to join me. It may not be my 21-day plan, but at least show me some evidence or something. Yeah. If you can't become anti-racist, the time we're in right now, I may have to catch you on the next lap. Because right now I ain't stopping unless you're on the journey.
I know
that's where I need to be right now. I'm excited. I want to be the team captain. I want people to be able to call me because they know I'm gonna say, yeah, let's keep going, right? I'm gonna get there early. I'm gonna
Mhm.
stay there late
Yeah.
because that's what captains do.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
just if you're not on the way,
Mm.
don't get in the way. That's where I'm at right now.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And you know, and I think that that's the thing that I value so much about our connection is that I know that if I'm out of steam, if I'm losing it, I know I can pick up the phone and be like, "Look, bro, help me get back, in the zone because right now, I'm not being very helpful. I'm not healthy." And that's the thing that I tell people all the time that if I'm not healthy, then I can't continue to do this work because if I'm not healthy, and as I said, I grew up on the south side of Chicago. I am not a stranger to being called a nigger. I am not a stranger to being chased out of neighborhoods and have things thrown at me, or even being in a flat out fist fight behind, issues of being called a nigger. And so I think that there are times when my knee jerk reaction is to just want to go for the jugular. You know what I'm saying? My knee jerk is to straight up punch in the throat. But I realize that there's not value to that.
Yeah, yeah.
so
You got a
so
little of that outside in you. You got a little bit in you still.
just we can take the girl out the south side, right? But so I know that that's not healthy. So I have to be healthy if I'm going to continue to do this work, which means that sometimes I may need to walk away from the work, go to some place where there's water, because water is always calming for me. Um, bring together a collective of friends and colleagues from around the world just to go have an overnight, just a sleepover or something like that. Um, and then those types of things is what I need in order to bring myself back to a place where I feel like I'm healthy enough to get back in front of a class of people to teach them on this. So I'm always grateful for having a network of people like yourself who I feel like I could call on, just like, being able to call on you to do this today for me. So because I know that what you share is incredibly valuable, and it's not just for my own edification, but that there's also some good information here that you can share with others. So just one last question before we get out of here. What do you think is the most important skill for people to have right now in this very unique time that we are in? What's the most important skill?
Yeah, I think listening is the most important skill. I have a listening coach. Dr. John Bike is a listening specialist. I mean, most of us learn how to talk, most of us learn how to read, but rarely do we get taught how to listen. I
Mm,
think the most important skill we need right now is the ability to listen and coupling that with action.
yeah,
And so that's what I'm advocating. That's what I'm trying to do better myself. I mean, folks are just with this pandemic, with some of what's going on with the economy on the other side of white supremacy. I mean, folks are in some real difficult situations and difficult times. And I want to be someone that's genuinely able to hear how it is folks are dealing with what they're dealing with, and be able to, in the places I can, do something about that.
yeah.
So let me go back to the old neighborhood saying, not just talk about it, but be about it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Eddie. One of the things that years ago I started talking about stories, the power of stories to connect. I know that you know the value and the power of stories. It allows us, I think it was Patty Dye who said the shortest distance between two strangers is a story. And I feel strongly that once I get to understand somebody's experience, the closer that I can connect with them and the more that I can recognize my humanity in theirs. Um, and I, in my studies around story and storytelling, I came across a tool called story listening, and that for me just opened up my world from just it being a one way from being the teller of the story because of the fact that it could be enlightening to others and healing, etc., and healing in the telling and potentially healing in the receiving. But this notion of being a story listener speaks to exactly what it is that you're talking about. Being a better listener. It's active listening on a deeper level, so much so that it allows me, in listening to your story, the ability to transform. And the language that they use in this tool is trance with a TRANCE, right? Because when we get so caught up in somebody's story, it truly takes us to another place, almost like we're in a trance. It's what theater does. It's what movies do. It's what reading a good book will do. And so I think that when we get to that place is when we can truly substitute self for other and engage in a story in a way that brings us closer to our singular humanity. So thank you for leaving us on that. That is just amazing.
Thank you. Thank
Well,
you.
any final word you want to give to this audience, Eddie? Upcoming event. I know that we've got your 21-day challenge is going on right now. I've shared that on LinkedIn. I'll pick it up and share it here on Facebook. But anything else?
Yeah, well, WPC is doing some smaller versions. Like I said, we're going virtual. We're doing a WPS that'll be November. So look for that. Everything I'm doing, you can find on my website, eddiemoorejr.com, or the website of the 501c3, the Privilege Institute. And it's under that name, the Privilege Institute. Last thing I want to say is people ask me, am I optimistic? Am I pessimistic about the times we're in? And I say, folks, I'm not really optimistic. You can't just watch, this Breonna Taylor or listen to these verdicts and feel like, wow, things are going to get better. I'm not pessimistic either. Like I said, I'm a old crackhead with a PhD. Like, I'm fortunate to be alive here today. So I'm really blessed every day I wake up. So I don't operate in pessimism or in a pessimistic way. So I invented a new word. I'm not optimistic. I'm not pessimistic. And I'll leave this with y'all in closing. I'm what I like to call pessimistic. Pessimistic means, let me say this first. It's a real privilege to be optimistic, like believe things are going to get better and you're not doing anything. Like that's real privilege.
Yeah.
Like you have time to wait.
Yeah.
Pessimistic means you're optimistic, but you're doing stuff.
Yeah.
And the 21-day action plan, that's really what the goal is, to get people started, to not just talk about it, but to be about it. Be more pessimistic.
Yes. Look, is that the next shirt?
that might be.
I need that. And spell more with the 2 O's, right?
I appreciate that.
All right, my friend. Well, listen, thank you so much. I really appreciate you for taking the time to chat with us today. And I'm grateful to everybody who took the time to join us today, to be on the call and to listen. This will be available after. There will be a YouTube link that we can share. I'll be posting that on LinkedIn, and this will now be recorded on Facebook, and we can always direct people back to watch this at a later date. So again, thank you for your time, Eddie. My logo or my tagline within my company is treasure culture. And that's because I found this quote years ago, or this I don't want to call it a parable, but it's from the Chinese community, and it says, culture is a treasure that will follow its owner everywhere. And so I believe that we should not just treasure culture, but treasure people and treasure stories. And I treasure our friendship, my friend, and I look forward to seeing you in person so I can hug your neck again. If you are looking for how to get in touch with Dr. Eddie Moore, I'm going to put this banner up really quickly, and you can find him here, and that will take you everywhere else that you need to go to find more about the White Privilege Conference, etc. And I will take you back out with our video. Thanks again, Eddie, and we will see you all next time.